The most extreme form of bereavement is parental bereavement, and I know firsthand of this pain after losing my baby girl Milli at just 6 days old. With no indication of complication prior to her birth, it came as a complete shock. We never got to see her eyes, we never got to hear her cry. As the weeks passed and we were riding the tsunami of grief, those around us expressed how useless they felt. They too didn't know that we felt so useless. We didn't even know what we needed. But I knew at that point that I needed to speak out. From Milli's life and death, this podcast was birthed. Little Life, Big Loss. As a safe space to talk about baby loss, grief, trauma, heartache, and hope. A safe space for lost parents to share their stories of their real-life angels. A place for our nearest and dearest to learn about our journeys and to gain a deeper understanding in how to help those who are riding the tsunami of grief. Welcome to Little Life, Big Loss. Hi there, Milli's mum here. My name is Rochelle and I am the creator and host for this podcast, Little Life, Big Loss. Whilst I hadn't planned on adding trigger warnings to the podcast, because let's be honest, our whole life and this whole podcast is one big trigger, I would like to preface a few things. Every episode I record could include any of the following: birth trauma, stillbirth, neonatal loss, termination for medical reasons, mental health, suicide, grief, and all things in and around all of this. Episodes might also mention living children, pregnancy, and pregnancy after loss. Please read the caption for a summary of what you can expect in this episode. The opinions shared by guests on my podcast are the opinions of those individuals and do not always reflect the same opinions of mine. We are not professionals, we are just lost parents sharing our story. If you hear of something that you wish to try for yourself, please seek professional guidance from a psychologist, a GP, or an OB. And finally, thank you for all the love and support that we have been receiving. I'm in love with this safe space that we have created for our babies to be spoken about in such real and raw detail. If you feel connected to an episode, please share it with someone that you think might help. And if you would like to help our community, we have created a PayPal account, and we are asking that each time you listen to an episode, you just donate $1. If you go to PayPal and you search Little Life, Big Loss, any donations to that account will help us do so much more in this space. Thank you again so much. Good morning. Today,
hey, Michelle.
Good morning. Today we are joined on Little Life, Big Loss by a beautiful mama. Her name is Liv. We are going to be hearing her story this morning about her beautiful baby Siena. As always, I don't know much about Liv's story. I did just start to read it on the form and I was like, whoa, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. So I'm super excited. I'm super grateful that you are brave enough to share and that you trust me in this space to share your story. So thank you so much. And I know you have a couple of beautiful Earthside children as well. So thank you so much for joining us, Liv.
Thank you, Rochelle. And thank you so much for all the work you're doing in this space. Like, honestly, your podcasts are just amazing. Like, they are so incredible. I just can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you. I love them. It's pretty much the only thing that gets me out of bed at the moment. It's you guys. Yeah. So my first question is always, who was Liv before she experienced baby loss?
So I've always been a really positive, determined, hardworking, busy kind of person. And my background is as a social worker, actually. So my idea of hardship is pretty much on the harder end of the spectrum. And I've always been like, you've got nothing to complain about. Like, just never complain ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I became a mum. I got pregnant in 2018, middle of 2018, after being married for 2 years. And I guess the Liv I was and still am was very much a mum that had actually been either pregnant or breastfeeding ever since the middle of 2018.
Wow.
Yeah. So
What are
I've
we
got
now,
my daughter
2024?
Francesca,
Yeah.
who's 4.5, and Joseph, who's 2.5. And I always liked the idea of a big family. I knew I was so lucky to not have fertility issues, and really, really, really grateful for that. And yeah, we were just like, all right, time to go again.
Yeah. Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you do you call Francesca Frankie?
Yeah, a little bit. At the moment, I'm using her full name, but heaps of my friends call her Frankie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. And I also love when people think that there's a nickname and it's not. So my brother has a daughter Charlotte, and it was always the intention her nickname would be Charlie, and she's just never been a Charlie. She is Charlotte.
Ah,
I know.
yeah, yeah.
I know. Francesca and Joseph. And so, yeah, so you mentioned that you were grateful that you never had fertility issues. You fell quite easily with the other two. And was your birth, like your labor and birth for both of those, fine as well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Francesca was a induction at 41 plus 2. And
Oops, I've
sorry,
just
there's a
lost
lag. I'll just
you.
wait till I see
Yeah.
you again.
I was going to say, do you have anything like your phone or anything that's on at the moment? Just pop everything on airplane mode that you're not using, and that might help with your Wi-Fi, if you can.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Might help, hopefully.
Yeah, and yeah, like obviously when I hear those mums that like, they're over 40 weeks, like you just feel that that exhaustion that comes with that. So
And so how
but
far,
yeah, she was
what gestation did you go with Francesca?
yeah, sorry, 41 plus 2.
Yeah, okay. And then a spontaneous labor?
I had started, my waters had broken.
Yeah.
It took 2 days of just waiting around for the labor to start.
Whoa.
And it had started, but they were like, we need to like induce at the same time to
Yeah.
get things moving faster.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But
And
yeah,
then
other
with
than that,
Joseph?
no intervention.
Yeah.
And then Joseph, he came at 39 weeks. He was that classic second child where I got to the hospital and he arrived 15 minutes after.
Oh my gosh. Your body was like, I know what I'm doing. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so good.
And he probably was the child. He was an easy baby as well, and Francesca wasn't.
Yeah.
So he probably was the child that gave me a lot of complacency and this feeling of like, I know how to do this, like that feeling that you're like, yeah, this is how how I have babies and how I birth, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
then you guys decided to go again and you fell pregnant with your third. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how was your
Yeah.
pregnancy?
So super sick, like really, really sick. Not to the point where I was diagnosed with hyperemesis, but to where I was nauseous all day, every day, and it was like tough. Like
I
I
know
would
the
go to my
feels.
doctor's
Yeah.
appointment
Yeah.
in tears, just like, yeah.
Yeah. I was the same. I was
Yeah.
like, I remember one day, so most of the time mine was morning, it was morning sickness. And I remember one time I was eating dinner and I looked up at Dylan and I just went, I don't want to vomit. Like, I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to be like, I can't even eat dinner anymore. Like, I was just so sick, and it never, sometimes I'd get a couple of days rest. And then I was vomiting. I was vomiting the entire pregnancy. It was rough. It was rough.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I got that positive test, it was like, yeah, all smiles and cuddles. And then Michael like straight away just said to me, like, enjoy the next few weeks, because we knew. Like,
Were you sick with your first two?
yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
Um,
so 3. Yeah.
Siena was my worst, but Francesca was also really, really bad, which made me
Okay.
give me the sense that like it was another girl.
Yeah.
They were all terrible. Yeah.
I feel like that's what I've got
Yeah.
ahead of me.
I know.
So you were sick, and then you found out straight away, obviously, if you guys had planned it. You went for all your
Yeah.
normal scans and things, and then at what point did you know something might have been wrong?
So I actually, I think when you've been in the infertility world, like there's a lot of appointments you go to in that first trimester. But when you haven't, your doctors are pretty much happy to just not even see you. And I
Wow.
was by this time with my third also happy to just be like,
I
kiss
know
her
what I'm
ass to
doing.
us.
Yeah, this is good. Let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So when I found out, I always know that I need to go on Thyrox because I have a little bit of an underactive thyroid.
Okay. Yeah.
So I took a couple of weeks before bothering to book my doctor's appointment, and then I was like, oh, I'll go do it. And you always get that first appointment where they go, 1 in 5 pregnancies at this stage will end in a miscarriage, and
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
you're still really early, and you always get that talk to you. And I just remember being like, yeah, like I've got my 2 kids, like it's fine, like just,
Yeah.
yeah. And I hadn't had a miscarriage before, so I was like I'm so lucky, like,
Mm,
you
yeah.
know. Um, and then I decided this time around not to do any early scans. Like I was like, you know, then like what do they really do? Like you can still miscarry
Mm,
after them, and um, yeah, I don't know. I guess again, it was kind of like I didn't really need that this time around because I didn't have that same level of anxiety that you have
yeah.
with your first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first scan I went to was like 13 weeks, 5 days.
Yeah.
And I remember we had a little holiday booked just after that to the Gold Coast.
Ah.
Yeah. And I remember saying to my husband, like, he wanted me to change the date of our appointment because it was a day we had the kids. And I was like, oh, but I don't want to make it a day before we go on our holidays because what if something's wrong at this appointment? Right.
Okay.
And he's
Yeah.
like, oh, what? Do you think there's going to be something wrong? And I was like,
Mm,
no, but like, you know, you've
what
got to give yourself
if?
a few more days than that, right? Which again,
Mm,
I laugh at
wow.
myself now. I'm like, how naive. Like, you don't need a few more days. If there's something wrong, you don't need just a few more days.
So true. So true. But yeah, I could see where your head was at. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. But anyway, so we went to that scan, 13 weeks, 5 days. Baby looked perfect, everything perfect. Like cute little photo with, hand in the mouth. Like, just,
Mm,
I was kind of
mm.
like at that appointment, like, great, like, here's
Yeah.
my baby.
Yeah.
This is
Perfect.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like a little graduation. Like, it's like,
Yeah, it does because
I've done,
12 weeks is the scan. 12 weeks is the graduation. When you get past that, you think you're all clear. You
yeah,
really
for
do.
sure. Yeah. Oh, and then yeah, we went on our little holiday, which now I look back on as it's really nice that, we did that.
Mm. And she was there
Um
with you.
she was there with us, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And I could feel the flutters by that point because like, being my third, it was like yeah, you're used to things.
Yeah.
Um and then the only other appointment I had after that was just a doctor's one where we heard the heartbeat at around 18 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah,
And was
yeah.
everything okay? You hadn't heard the heartbeat before that, or
Well,
it
we
was,
had the
or that?
scan.
Oh, you had, but that was just an appointment to kind of check baby's heartbeat and see if everything. Yeah. Okay. Just a very
Yeah, and
low
it was
key.
also the one where it was like, oh, we haven't even put you in for the hospital yet. We haven't we just haven't done anything. Like it was
Yeah.
such a third pregnancy.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that.
Um,
I hear that. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you've got 2 little ones to look after, and especially yours are so young as well. So you're very busy. You've got lots of things going on. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
for sure. Yeah, and then we went into the spring school holidays here, which being from Melbourne, that's also the footy grand final season.
Aha, of course.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and our team Carlton was in the finals for like the first time in like a million years.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So yeah, there was a lot of excitement. There was the Melbourne show, like taking the kids to bounce. It was just party, party, party.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, you know, everyone always says this, like your subsequent pregnancies, you kind of even forget what week you're up to. Like you're just too busy.
I
It's
don't know
not
who
like the
else.
first time when you're,
Yeah, I was having breakfast with someone the other day, and I was like, "Oh, how many weeks are you?" And she was like, and I think like she almost felt guilty that she didn't know, but yeah, it was her second pregnancy, and it was just like, "Oh, I can't even remember." And when it's your first, you're like, "I'm 16 weeks and 3 days." Like I knew to the minute when I was, yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Yeah. And so then I finished that school holiday period and I had a scan coming up and I went back to work. And that was kind of the moment where I just started to have some thoughts.
Mm,
But every mum will say this, like you go into protective mode, like you don't even let yourself think it. It's like you've got two different brains going at the exact same time.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but your gut knew
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come on to the potty because like I know you've spoken so much about not feeling like Millie's movements or like not knowing what that feeling should be. And I was like, you know, this is my third time and still like you just don't know. Like every pregnancy is so different.
That does make me feel a little bit better. I have I'm going to cry. I have so much guilt around not feeling her and not like, and I know like my gut told me so much that she was not okay. And although I feel like I told enough people and enough professionals and I went in for that, but nothing ever got done about it. And I just have so much guilt. Like, could I have done more? And then yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild. It's so, and I'm excited to be pregnant again, but I'm scared. Like, what if the next baby does kick a whole lot more? And I think, oh, what an idiot. Like, as if that, this is what it's meant to feel like. So, yeah, there's so much guilt there.
I know. Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
did Sienna not move much, or she did, or?
So, basically at like just before going into the scan, it was also October and my Instagram had like blown up with all the wave of lights, like people sharing their angel babies and talking about
Wow.
loss. And so when I started to kind of go like, is my baby growing? Like what's going on? Like I honestly thought, and fair enough, I thought this, that like that was me seeing other people's stories and then projecting onto myself and I was just being overly emotional.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. But it was so deep, quiet inside me. I would do it. It would be like, it was only a few days of it and it was only like 10 minutes before bed. That was it. And I never told my husband. Like, I just, yeah, it was just this tiny thought in the back of my head of like, things don't feel right.
But every single one of the podcasts, every single mother says it. It's like you just have this feeling that you're not going to bring your child home. Like you just know something is wrong. And it's almost like an instant, I felt different at this point and I knew something was going to happen. And so many mums say it. And then even if you don't find out straight away, when they link back to when baby did pass away or when something did happen in utero or when something changed, it was like, wow, that was when I had that feeling. Like we are so, so, so linked, of course, and in tune to our babies. But then you're
Yeah.
scared to say it. Like I had said it in the end. So whilst I did tell everyone Millie didn't move, at the end of the pregnancy to a very select few people, I was saying, I'm really scared of losing her. I'm really scared of hurting her. Like I very much felt that. And so, but you're scared to say it because you feel like you're going to almost bring that on. And that's not true either. Just because we say we have these fears doesn't mean that's what made it happen. But yeah, you're almost scared to
Yeah.
just speak the words.
And I think what that comes down to is we don't have any control, but we want to pretend we have control.
Right. That's what I've said that was the biggest thing I learned last year. We have zero fucking control over anything. Like literally no control over falling pregnant, being pregnant, keeping our children, keeping them alive. Any of the things we have no control. And the more that we try to have, the more that we lose it, you know. So that was my biggest lesson of last year.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you started having these feelings. Oh, sorry. No, you go.
Yeah. The other thing that had happened was I'd gone to this birthday party around 18 weeks as well, like the end of that week. And I couldn't eat like that entire weekend. I remember I had to take the kids to this birthday party, and I just had like a blue icy pole to like try and like have something, and I vomited it all up in the car park.
No, it's the worst.
And I don't know if this is scientific or not, but like the next day after that, my morning sickness was over.
Ah,
yeah.
And is this linked back to? Obviously, we're going to get further into the story of when she passed and stuff, but
as I said, I don't know if it's scientific, but that gut feeling of like,
wow. Yeah. I think we always know. I think we know.
Yeah. So let's go to the scan now. So it was 2 days after the like attacks that happened in Israel.
Yeah.
Like before that war begun, and you know, my husband and I are kind of like, you know, global politics type people. Like we were very in the zone of that conflict, and you know, really sitting, I guess, like driving to our appointment, like really sitting in like that gratitude of like, how lucky are we? You know, all week I have like a mood diary, and all week it was just like so grateful, so grateful, so grateful, which I am still very grateful.
Yeah.
And then so we're sitting in the scan, and I think again it's that third baby. Like I was talking about going to work after the end of the scan, like it was just we're here. I was excited to see the baby again and to get some reassurance, but I definitely wasn't like overly thinking about the scan. No scan anxiety, like just I guess it's like, you know, I've done this a million times before. It's never like nothing ever.
Yeah, and you're 18 weeks, you know, like you hadn't had anything wrong prior to 18 weeks. Why would you think anything was going to happen now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so this one was actually at 22 weeks. Yeah, this scan.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So my where I go to, it's a private clinic. They just like to do all of them a little bit later, just because things have progressed a bit further. They can see more.
Yeah.
And maybe also just like with my availability, you know, it's probably booked in like what day can you do in your busy schedule?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I've got to work around this, and this. Fit me in here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then we went into that scan, and we have an obstetrician, not just a sonographer, which was such a blessing. Just make sure
sorry, it's just the Wi-Fi. Hold on, I'm just going to make sure this Wi-Fi's not interfering with us. We don't have great weather here today. I feel like it might be being a pain in the butt as well. Turn that Wi-Fi off there.
The storms.
I know. So you went to the 22-week scan. Did you say your obstetrician is your sonographer?
So I'm actually in the public system.
Yeah.
But I get my scans done. It's called the Womb. People in Melbourne will have heard it. And it's just part of Francis Perry that's at the Royal Women's Hospital.
Yeah.
And that's considered the gold standard. If you go to them, then, you know, if anything's wrong, then like the hospital really trusts like that the scans have been done correctly, and you don't have that awkward thing that people have told us about of like the sonographer has to walk out of the room and go get the obstetrician. That kind of stuff doesn't happen because you've got the obstetrician. And even at my 13-week scan, I know I'm procrastinating here, but even at my 13-week scan, my husband, like when we got the great results, baby's perfect. Who goes to the obstetrician like, oh, it must be so hard telling families that their babies have
Oh.
died. And I was like, oh my God.
Mm.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay, so this lovely obstetrician puts her wand on my belly, and like what I saw in that moment, I didn't even recognize. I wasn't like I looked and was like, what's that? I thought she was just gonna move the wand over ever so slightly and I would see my baby there. And instead she takes the wand off my belly and she
Mm.
looks at me and says, I'm so sorry, your baby has died.
Fuck.
Yeah. And I'm still grateful now that like those were her words. Like, not that there's anything wrong with the like your baby has or there's no heartbeat, but like just to say your baby
Mm.
has died and to really like, yeah, really acknowledge that it was my baby was really, really special. Like, I don't know that
Yeah,
special is the
that's
right
so
word, but
true. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was good words by her.
I'm so sorry your baby has died. Fuck. And
Um,
because you don't really hear that, everyone always says, yeah, I'm so sorry
yeah,
there is no
there's no
heartbeat.
heartbeat. That's the classic.
Yeah.
There's no heartbeat. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she was so, so lovely. In that moment, like I was like everyone talks about out of body experiences, and I'd never had
Mm.
one properly before, and this was seriously the most out of body experience ever. Like the shock. I think I'm still in shock. It's just like you're just looking onto yourself,
Yeah.
and my mind actually went to like I think this is flight mode. It just went so into the future. I was imagining like my tombstone and how it's going to have like all my children on it and this baby would be part of that as
Oh,
well and
wow. Whoa.
like I don't it was just so I guess it was philosophical in a way. It was kind of like
Wow.
yeah,
That's quite beautiful. Like
yeah,
that's so heavy but so beautiful and like totally out of body because you're like just looking so far into the future and just knowing instantly like this baby is always going to be part of our life.
yeah, yeah, that is, yeah, thank you, that's a nice way of putting it.
Mm.
Yeah. And then I realized like that what I was saying out of my mouth was like what I was saying before, like all those um thoughts that I'd had and concerns that I'd had leading up to the scam. And I was like kind of just blurting them out, like, oh, I knew something was wrong, blah, 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 even though like I was as shocked as anyone.
Mm.
But the thing that I was doing in that moment was I hadn't even registered, like my husband Michael was like still in the room there. And it's hit him like in a much more like, real way. Like he's there sobbing
Fuck.
and and he never cries. Like it was just like, whoa.
Mm.
And and then he's like, what do you mean you knew? What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
And again, thankfully the obstetrician was like, oh, don't worry about that, guys. Now, like that's not like that doesn't matter right now. Like,
Because he would have been thinking, like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you share? Like, all the things. And you're like, well, I kind of knew, but I didn't know. And it's this gut feeling, but you're trying to ignore it. And yeah, like,
yeah. So yeah, exactly right. Yeah. And then yeah, I'm trying to think what else yeah, obviously we kind of so I felt like this immense guilt at that moment. Like I was just started saying like I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Like I don't know, you just feel like you're to blame, even though you're
mm-hmm,
absolutely not.
mm-hmm.
And that's when it dawned on us that like we'd already told Francesca that we were
Oh,
bringing
fuck.
home a baby.
Mm, mm,
Yeah. And again, like, and this is so silly too, but at the time I was like, oh my God, why did I tell her? Like, it's
mm.
like,
Yeah. So, yeah, of course you would have told. Well, I mean, one, I love that. How did she guess? From your belly? Or was it like some spiritual feeling that she had? Or what happened?
oh my God, okay. I always forget this part. When she said, that I was having a baby, she said, but this baby might die.
Shut the
I
fuck
know,
up.
I know. And like, oh, I know.
What? I'm like covered in goosebumps. Your
Oh,
4.5-year-old said that.
yeah, yeah,
And does she still, like, she would still obviously talk about Sienna now and see her and feel her and all the things, surely.
yeah, yeah, she does. Yeah.
What, how did she even know? Like, I'm, I'm mind blown. We as adults don't even know that babies are going to die. We're like, no, that's not going to happen. Like, how did she know that?
Well, that's what my response was. That's not gonna happen. Like, what?
And did she say, I told you so when it happened? And she's like, Mummy, told you. I can't even
Mm,
believe it. What an
yeah,
absolute blessing she is. Like, that's, wow. And
yeah,
so how
yeah.
did that, and so then obviously, so you guys got told you're at the 22-week scan. The sonographer has said, I'm so sorry, your baby has died. Hubby is just a mess and crying. You're feeling like, yep, I had a feeling. And then what happens?
They offer us a spot in the back room, and they say your doctor might give you a call. We're going to put a referral through to the hospital now, but you're going to go home and just be really nice, like kind to yourselves. And um, yeah, we sat in that back room, and it was just like, what do we do now? Like,
Fuck.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. I got
Okay,
you.
good. It's a little bit hard when we're dealing with
I
this
know, there's a
internet at the same time.
delay. I know.
Yeah. So then yeah, okay, we didn't actually go straight home. So we went to my dad's, well, my parents, but only my dad was home.
Yeah.
And we gave him the news. Uh, and they gave me a photo of poor Sienna. Obviously, we didn't know the sex at that time as well.
And
And
that's what I was going to say. So you said that they put the thing on the screen and you just didn't even recognize what you saw. What did that look like? Like, what is it that you see at that point?
so the like when you go to a scan and there's like the beautiful brain and the heart pumping and there's just like life in the baby. Um, this one was just like the shell of a baby, like that
Wow.
that outside line, and the head was quite squashed.
Oh, wow. And you could see that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's heavy.
I don't know why I'm laughing at this now, but like I just went around to my parents and my in-laws' house, like holding that photo. I didn't even
Oh,
show it to them. I was
shit.
just holding it. Like I was just
Yeah.
holding it, like probably just trying to like work
Comprehend.
out what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So my dad gave me a real awkward hug. Said I'm sorry. My mother-in-law was like, "Oh, like that's awful. Like our family's a bit awkward." So it's just like, even I was
Perfect.
awkward. I was just like, yeah, it was just awkward as fuck.
Yeah. Love
Um,
that.
and then this is probably the part that really shows how kind of mad we all are. My husband was meant to be like going on a work trip over Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
And we'd found this news out on the Wednesday. And I was just like, well, of course you should still go on this work trip. Like you've worked so hard for it. Like just go. We'll sort this out later.
Fuck. We'll just deal with it down the track.
Deal with this.
Fuck.
Oh. So he had to go buy suits, and I was like, well, I'm not staying at home so I'll come with you. So, and I just didn't want to go home basically. So the one thing I did do was put a call into my friend who'd had a TFMR stillbirth.
Okay, yeah.
Um, and I was like, bawling my eyes out by this point.
Mm.
But I was just like, oh, and she had her toddler in the car with her. Like it would have been like
Shit.
terrible timing. um, but I just said, oh, I found out my baby's died and I have to choose how I'm going to deliver this baby.
Fuck.
Um, and I always knew I'd do natural delivery, but I just wanted to talk to someone about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did she react to that?
She was amazing. Like, I think you've said had someone as well that you were able to call. Oh yeah, listened to
Mm.
Amy's
Yeah.
um
Oh, good. Yeah.
story. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, this and you know what? She was my beautician as well. Is that
Oh,
so weird?
wow. Yeah, no, not at
Yeah.
all. I'm a beautician and
Well,
I would
well,
like to
that's what I
think
mean.
that
Like, it's
my
so weird that
clients would
like,
call me. Yeah.
yeah, that she's a beautician. You're a beautician. Yeah. So I called her and yeah, she was like, oh, it's still your baby. Just try and make memories with your baby and
Hmm.
like, yeah, just yeah, she was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then yeah, so I went to the shops and I bought this teddy. So when he was buying suits, I bought my first thing for Sienna.
Uh,
First and first
oh,
and
I
only
love that.
only little thing
I
for
love
her.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it was such a good decision because now like we all have Sienna's teddy and
Yeah.
yeah, it's really nice.
That's so precious.
Yeah. Um, all right. Over the next few days, so I knew I had one more day before the kids, before I would have 3 days with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the day that I like spoke to the hospital and booked in my induction, and I arranged for it to be on the Monday, so it would be like the least disruptive to my little family. And yeah, obviously, but I had had a chance to speak to my mum, and yeah, she was like, whatever I need to do to help you guys, like just let me know.
Yeah.
So on the Friday, I my mum yeah helped me out a bit with the kids and just kind of kept it like as normal as possible.
Yeah.
And one of my friends got me a little voucher to get a little Pandora bracelet
Oh,
with the
that's so
birthstone.
sweet.
Yeah, yeah. So I had only told a couple of people by this stage. I was just kind of calling. It was a little bit of a therapy, just call someone up and tell them what happened
Mm,
and
yeah.
do that. Um, and then on the Saturday, that was when I was definitely like just being like mum on autopilot. And I tried to just take the kids to gymnastics, like what I would normally do.
Far
And
out.
I walk in and like a little baby cries.
Oh.
And I just broke down because I was just like so triggered.
Of
And my kids
course.
have no idea what's going on. Like I've just, got to keep it together. And this group of mums who like I didn't even know well at all, I told them and I'm like, my baby's died and my baby's still inside me.
Oh,
And I'm
shit.
just like acting like everything's fine. Here I am.
Mm,
And of
mm.
course, like there was no social worker in that group of mums. No one really, they basically were like, I'm so sorry. I hope you feel better soon.
Oh,
And then they just didn't talk to me for the rest of the session.
mm. It's so, it's so hard. Like, I just went into the chemist yesterday to get a script, and this lady who normally talks to me all the time just fully avoided me. And I thought, fuck, I'm like that awkward chick that people don't want to talk to now. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like they don't know what to say. I totally get that. And just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
Yeah.
but you, like, I'm you, and I'm like, yeah, but my baby died. Can someone just talk to me, please? Like, oh, you poor thing. Fuck. That is horrendous.
So at that point, yeah, I messaged Michael and I was like, yeah, today's not so good. This was maybe not such a great idea. But I went over to my parents for the afternoon and they sort of helped out until Michael got home.
Yeah.
Um, and then I've been doing a lot of research. So I was trying to work out what kind of baby I was going to be giving birth to, what names I wanted to give for either sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was putting like little trinkets together. We're Catholic, so we had a lot of like rosary beads and angels and crosses and stuff, and I like pulled all that stuff together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the counselor at Red Nose actually said to me, like, it sounds like you still just were preparing like to give birth to your baby, like you just didn't understand in a way that your baby had died.
Wow.
And I was like, that might be true. And also, I think it's like you just still are nesting, like you're still the mum.
Yeah.
And I
How do I
think
still give her
maybe,
the most perfect of everything, no matter what?
correct. I think maybe I was just like, I don't have much time to like be mum while she's physically here. So, like, this is all I get. I need to make the
That's
most
so
of it.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did definitely go into it with like a few, yeah, hopes around what that might look like. And I guess it's that classic thing of like trying to control the uncontrollable. Yeah.
And also, I mean, you're probably thinking like, and I have heard this on like some of the other girls as well, like, what if they got it wrong? What if I birth and baby comes out okay? Like, this is just all one big mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're always hoping just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit.
But I can't imagine
Yeah.
it being that, you know, her little heartbeat had stopped already.
So then that Sunday morning, I actually went back to read because I'd written down like the things that I did on those days to remember. And I'd actually gotten up and started making pancakes for my family.
Oh my gosh. Good mama. You're a good wife
I
and
know.
mother.
I'm crazy, but like, I mean, what else are you supposed to do? Like, pancakes are yum. But I actually had started to be like a little bit in early labor.
Wow, I
And
wondered
I
that.
just,
Okay.
yeah. And I just woke up like, yeah. I woke up being like, I'm not okay. I can't parent today. Like,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that was my feeling. And then, thankfully, little Sienna knew that too. And so I actually had a little bloody show.
Okay.
And that was enough for me I waited a couple of hours to see if like labor started a bit more, but I called the hospital and I was like, look, I'm not booked in until tomorrow and I'm in the public system, so um, they can't always get you in.
Far out.
But I was like, look, my second child was birthed really, really fast and I don't, want to deliver this baby at home.
Shit.
The woman on the other side, she was lovely to me, but she was also like, you're not even in the system.
She said
Can't
what?
find you.
What did she say?
She goes, I can't even find your booking in the system. I know, get out. It's like, okay.
Okay, no worries. Fuck. What the heck?
I know. Oh, and she said, just come in, like get yourself ready and come in. And the other thing that was classic about this public system was like, you call up, you've got to tell your whole story.
Yeah.
You go in, you've got to tell your whole story. And like eventually, and I was just crying every time. and yeah, it was hard. And then when I finally got in, they finally said to me, like, once I was admitted, everyone knows your story now. Like, it's on your file, it's clear. You will not have to keep recounting this.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So that was great. Even though now I love obviously talking about it, but
I know.
yeah, it's a lot at the time.
It's so, even yesterday I'd had a bad day and I got home and Dylan's like, how was your day? And I was like, yeah, good. Told the story for the millionth time. Like, and I just got like upset because I'd gone to the doctor and then I thought she'd know the story, but she didn't. And so, why is my dog barking? And she didn't. So sometimes you think that someone's going to know and then they don't. And it wasn't her fault. There was no lack of communication. Oh, hello. You're so cute. Thank you. Goodbye. You're going to be on the next podcast. I love you. Oh, that's so cute. My auntie, who watches every episode, she'll probably be mortified that she was just in the background. She just got me a pink set of tracksuits. Oh my God, she's so sweet.
Oh, nice.
She's so cute. That's so lovely. Yeah, just going to this doctor yesterday, and it wasn't her fault that she didn't know, but she just had asked me what my plans were for pregnancy and things like that, and if I planned to have a family, and then I told her everything, and like I love talking about it, I know, but like I just said to Dylan when I got home, like I guess it's so much easier for men because they don't have to talk about it constantly, and sometimes I feel like my grief is so much heavier or that Dylan's doing fine and I'm not, but it's like we are constantly reminded every single day pretty much, different to men, and yeah, going to an appointment can just ends up being that's a question, and it's just so hard. Yeah. It's so hard. And you just and I do love talking about Milli and I do love talking about it, but like, yeah, just every single day is a constant reminder of everything you've been through. And even this doctor yesterday, she said, how are you normal? And she's like, and she wasn't being mean. Like, she was like, you're amazing. And I was like, I'm not, and I'm not normal, and I'm not okay, and I'm very broken. I'm just telling you this story without crying because I've told it a billion times. And then
you detach from it.
Yeah, I had. It feels strange sometimes telling the story and not crying, but it's like, it's almost on, autopilot. You just tell it a million times over.
Yeah, but I think that also was horrible because, like, she's gone in there asking you, like, pretty loaded questions. Like, so that's so triggering for you. Like, it's not like you chose to tell the story on your terms. Like,
it was heavy. It was heavy.
Yeah. Fuck.
I know.
Yeah. So we started the birth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm up to the birth.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was an induction. They said the cervix was still closed, but they offered to start the induction. They're like, we've got a midwife ready for you, if that's like what you want to do today. And Michael and I are so pragmatic. We're like, what time is it? Like, how long do you think it would take?
Gotta pick up my kids at 3.
Yeah. But I was like, bro, otherwise we have to come back here again tomorrow. Like, who the hell wants to do that? And my mother-in-law was the same. She's like, just I've got the kids, they're fine. Just like,
yeah.
I think it just shows like we struggle to worry about ourselves. Like, we're just constantly thinking about the kids.
Good parents.
Yeah. So, I think I said at the start, like, I'm quite a determined person. Like, I'm really like, oh, okay, I'm here to do something. I've got to do it right. So I went into that labor and I was like, I need oxytocin. I have to be like happy, not even happy, but like just in the mood. I'd made like my pod, like my, what is it called? Soundtrack, like
playlist.
Your playlist. Like, I just didn't want complications, and I was like, the better I can do this, the better I won't have any complications.
Yeah. Yep. Fair assumption.
Yeah. So, it was a weird environment. Like, it's weird. It's weird to spend the entire day, like, in hospital. You can hear the other babies. You hear mum screaming, like, and you're that case today. There might be others as well, but you're that case today with the stillborn.
Fuck.
But like having said that, they do a good job at the hospital. Like they yeah, gave us talked us through what happens next and brought the social worker in, and she gave us books for the kids, and
Mm,
we had a really lovely midwife.
that's so nice.
So yeah, it's such a weird environment. Like it's so surreal because if you explain it to other people, they're like, "What do you mean? Like, you know, that you made this almost like a safe, comfortable space to be in?" Like
Mm,
they can't imagine that there's any positives, but I'm like,
I
they
know.
do really. Yeah, they tell you they use the fact that it's your baby. Like they say mum, they say baby, and that's just
Because
so
it
special.
is
Like
like you are mum and it is your baby. And and I know what you're saying. Like for us, we're like, of course they would say that. But for anyone else, it's like, until you've experienced it, you don't know that you need those things.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Mm, I'm glad you had
And
a
the
good
other thing about
experience.
me, yeah, and the other thing about me is I love birth stories. So like I always used to listen to Australian birth stories. Now I just
Mm-hmm.
listen to your podcast, and I love
Ah,
like yeah, yours are heartbreaking. Um,
mm,
I
yeah,
still Hannah's one about the shattered teeth. I was like, what? Like,
I know. So
um,
wild.
yeah, so wild. But even the PAL stories, like the pregnancy after loss, like I love hearing their like that birth after.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it gives me so much hope hearing those stories. Like you just,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
yearn for that feeling, but also equally scared. But yeah, so want that healing birth story after.
yeah, that's right. And so yeah, I really wanted to yeah, so obviously yeah, I was kind of like trying to yeah, birth the way I would normally birth in a way, but it felt
Mm-hmm.
weird. Like it just felt like I don't know. It was very performative. It was kind of like you've just got to try and get in the zone.
Yeah.
Um, and at one stage, I was like, you'd never normally feel up like towards your cervix, but I'm like, well, there's no risks here really. So I felt up and I could feel a little foot coming out because obviously
Mm.
baby was
Was she
breech,
breech?
obviously. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
still too little to have turned.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of hold on to that because I'm like, that was a special moment
Yeah.
of
That's so sweet.
birth. Yeah. And then another funny moment was like that when she finally kind of like first came out like a little bit like into the vagina. Um, I could actually like feel because it was legs, I wasn't used to that. And I was like, what the hell is in my vagina? Like I just forgot for a second like what was going on.
Uh huh.
Um, so that was funny.
You're like,
Um,
there's feet hanging out of the inside of me.
yeah, I was like, what the, yeah, exactly. Like what?
I
Um,
actually have a full on vision of that right now. Yeah.
and then yeah, the birth took a little bit of a while because there wasn't a lot of like she wasn't helping me
I've heard
deliver
that.
her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I only had to get to like whatever it was, 5 or 6 centimeters dilated, the contractions were further along. So I'd have to wait for like, 5 minutes rather than like only 2 minutes
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
for a contraction. Um, and so after a little while, the midwife started to be like, look, I'm just going to get the doctor. Um, everyone's going to, there's going to be a few people coming in now just because basically the biggest fear with a loss at this gestation is for the mum that she'll like hemorrhage.
Okay.
Or also the placenta can be too stuck because you know how like obviously a lot of people have been talking about placental abruptions, like the placenta
Yeah.
might not come off and just end up
Ah.
still
Okay.
inside the mum.
So placenta abruption is when it comes out comes apart from the wall too soon. And is there a risk when you're in the second trimester that it won't come apart at all? Won't come away from the
Correct.
wall? Okay. Yeah.
At all. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the doctor put on her gloves And then I got one more contraction and everything came out. Baby, placenta, umbilical cord. And
Wow.
I thanked the doctor. I was like, oh, thank you so much. And she goes, that was all you. I just put on the gloves.
Oh.
I was like, I must have been scared off by the gloves. I was like, no, no, no.
Yeah. I can do this.
I believe in me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good for you.
So look, birth, and I don't know if it's similar with cesareans, but you get like all the exact same rushes, like um, physiologically, that you would if the baby was alive.
Yeah, I don't think it's the same. I mean, mine was, well, I don't know, because mine was extremely traumatic that Millie came out and was straight on the resus table, and then I was like shaking and vomiting, which I always say I'm not sure whether that was from the trauma. I know that you can get cesarean shakes anyway, but mine was to a very, very, very high level. Again, don't have anything to compare it to, but I imagine that you do get
Yeah.
that normal oxytocin and all that kind of stuff, but serotonin, oxytocin.
Oxytocin, yeah.
I didn't have it.
Mm.
I know.
Yeah,
But I
and you
do
also
hear
get
so
the
often that
adrenaline.
I feel like the stillborn, that you still do get that. It's still like, wow, I just birthed my baby. Like for a vaginal birth, even with a stillborn.
Yeah. Yeah, so like what you got, that rush of adrenaline as well, and I agree, it would have been like because of all the extra trauma.
Mm,
But yeah, it is really common that you get like shakes and like yeah, that it's just like this buzzing feeling.
mm.
Um, so then that she'd already warned me, the midwife, that once baby was delivered, that they would take baby away and like check and kind of clean them up and then bring
Okay.
baby back.
Yeah.
Um, but it's honestly like the most horror. Well, you know the feeling. It's the most horrible feeling. Like you've just delivered baby, but baby is not with you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it just sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And even though they knew the outcome of Siena, like they couldn't just still put her straight on your chest, or they just need to make sure everything looks not as
Yeah, so
traumatic, I
she's still
guess.
in her she was still in her sac, so they had to like actually like open that up and everything.
Oh,
But also just because of the gestation, they like to kind of um yeah, I don't know. That's just a protocol that they do for that
yeah,
gestation.
yeah.
But then what happened is that it was taking a while and like no one was coming back. Um and yeah, I guess obviously you start to have that feeling like what's wrong, but like baby's already dead, so it's not like it's not your what's wrong. It's like
So true.
it's
Yeah,
just like a
yeah,
I don't know. It's
yeah,
just like what's going on? Like where's baby?
yeah,
Like can I meet? Well, I really
yeah,
just wanted to know like who is this baby? Can I name them?
yeah. And you still didn't
And
know a
then
gender at this point.
yeah, I still didn't know a gender. Like that was the main reward that was going to come out of like
Yeah,
all of this. Like that was really what I was hanging on to, right? It was like they're still my baby. I'm still going to get to name them. I'm still
of
going to get to
course.
imagine who they could have been. Like I can still do all that. I still get to be their mum.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they came back into the room and they said, I said, oh, like, what did I have? And they're like, we're really sorry, but baby is quite squashed. And like, we just can't say for sure if it's a boy or girl.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And so what? She hadn't grown, like the genital area hadn't. At what point during at what gestation does their genitals usually grow? Like, because yeah, okay. You've
Yeah, so
obviously done
I
all your
had to do all
research
this.
about
I
this
had to
since.
do all this research. Yeah, I had to do
Yeah.
all this research, and yeah, it was like between like 15 and 17 weeks.
Yeah.
And so by about 18 weeks, you'd normally be able to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So that really sent me into a spiral. Like I kind of almost felt like I was just a fool. Well, yeah, you know the feeling. Like I'm just a complete fool. Like
Yeah.
what idiot.
Yeah.
Like, did I even have a baby? Like, what planet am I on? Like, you
Wow.
know, like this is
Yeah.
just ridiculous. Yeah, I felt really embarrassed, just ashamed
Oh,
even. Um,
wow.
and you know, you get to like a dark place sometimes, and the thoughts are just so bad, and so you just think like people are not even gonna like everyone's gonna forget your child. They're not even gonna acknowledge your child, like
Yeah.
because you know, yeah, you're just like, well, this doesn't count as anything.
And you're like, well, why can I feel it so heavily, but no one else even feels it at all? Or like, you just think, am I the only person that's going to grieve this? And am I being
Yes,
unrealistic by grieving so much and hurting so badly?
yes, definitely. That were all the thoughts that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the midwife said to us, like, look, I don't normally recommend this, but you know, baby's head is quite squashed. Like I would recommend that you don't meet the baby.
Oh no.
I know,
Fuck.
I know. And again, like I was just like, you know, and I'd seen that ultrasound, right? Like I knew what I was walking into. I knew baby was going to be squashed. Um, but I was kind of like, oh my God, like what are we talking here? Like smushed to
Mm.
smithereens. Like is there even like
Mm.
a baby still here at all? And I just felt so embarrassed because I was like, you know, I thought I was 22 weeks. Like
Yes. Yeah.
I thought I had a baby, like not just this
Mm.
situation. Um, but thankfully, while I was like off in bloody like just get me out of here land, Michael was like, oh no, like this is still our baby. Like we'll meet them.
Oh,
I was
yay.
like,
Go, Dad.
thank you. Yeah, go dad. Go dad.
Mm.
Because that would have been the biggest mistake like I could have possibly made.
If
Yeah.
your thoughts were already, did I even birth a child? What have I done? All the things, having then not met them, I think would have also added to that. Did that, like, just totally gaslight yourself of like, did that even just happen? I love
Yeah,
that you still met
absolutely.
her.
Yes. Yes, so we met her and while I was waiting for her to get all ready, I put out all my little memorial things and I'd just got on the back the childcare photos of Francesca and Joseph. So I put them
Oh,
next to our little cute ultrasound photo and yeah, had some candles, had the teddy bear, and that was like what I was taking photos of while I waited.
hmm.
And then we got a few shots, like we got one of her in the little, I don't know, medical bassinet, whatever they call those, like hospital ones,
Mm-hmm.
just in the background. And we did some stuff standing over her, but we still, um, at the time, chose only to get, like I'd already asked for a photo of the feet. So the doctor had gotten me a photo with just her foot,
Hmm.
which I'll now cherish forever.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I guess it was just we're all just so overwhelmed by that point. We just didn't know what we wanted, even though I thought I'd come in prepared, but by that point I wasn't prepared anymore.
Yeah.
So we just didn't take any other photos of her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is
But I'm
so.
okay with it. Like
Yeah.
I wish I
Yeah.
had, but I'm also like I think we did like the best we could in the situation. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
But yeah, she wasn't. She was definitely like herself. Like she had little eyes and a little mouth and all her fingers and toes
mm,
and like yeah, like
and that vision of them in that is so scary. Like, I'm gonna like the vision of them passed away, and like you can't get that out of your brain. Like you can't that like every time I closed my eyes for the first few nights at least when we got home from the hospital, that was the only vision I had was Millie dead and her mouth open and
yeah,
her skin had changed. And if Heartfelt weren't there taking the photos for us, we would have absolutely not had those photos. And it's only been a couple of weeks ago when I got that the doll made the same weight as Milli, that I was trying to find a particular photo of her in this outfit, that I went through the photos and I found it to send to the girl who made the doll. And it's so strange because I looked at the photos and I thought, oh, they're not as bad as I remembered.
Yes, that's right. I
Yeah,
know.
yeah, and I was like, whoa, like my brain at the time was like, this is, and Dylan's as well. Like we were both like, get us the fuck out of here. And I don't think Dylan's ever looked at those photos since. I could guarantee you, actually, he has not. But I think I've looked at them so many times, and I guess my brain is in a different space now. But yeah, they don't look as. And maybe because I'm in this community now and I see everybody's photos, and every time I see, like, if I saw your photos, I'd be like, oh, we had a brunch here a couple of weeks ago, and one of the girls was like, do you want to see? So she had Whitaker. You might follow Crystal, Whitaker's Wings. And she was like, do you want to see Whitaker? And I was like, of course I do. And she showed me like freshly birthed Whitaker, stillborn. And I was like, oh, I know. I was like, oh, I love her, you know, like.
Yeah.
But when it's your own child and you're in that space and you see that, it's just like, holy fuck, I can't even look, but I love you and I just want to speak love. And, you know, it's fucked up. It's fucked. Like none of us should ever, 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 ever even know how that feels. So what I'm trying to allude to is that, you know, it's so normal that you didn't take photos in that moment, and you will forever still remember what she looks like. And
I think so.
Yeah, and I'm glad you have the photos of her feet. I love my Milli photos of her feet. I've got one right here. Look at this. Oh, that's stuck on there. Oh, God. Breaking shit. Look.
Oh.
I know.
Oh, yeah, that is so cute.
I love their little feet.
Yes. Yes. And that's your little profile pic on your Instagram is of the pink foot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube. It's like I can't change it now. It's just her little foot.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
So how much time did you guys choose to spend in the room with Siena? And so, okay, and so we still don't know the gender at this point. So they've suggested you don't see her. They obviously, you know, helped make her look as beautiful as they could in that moment. You had your time with her. Still don't know the gender. And then, so how much time did you spend with her?
So I'd birthed by about 7 p.m. and then we were keen to get home to the kids that night. So they were working hard to help discharge us. And we left the hospital by about 9:30. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, that was like the right decision for sure. Like we just put the kids in bed with us. Like we just all went to bed together, and that was
And you would have just had I know you're already a grateful person, but you would have just had like a billion times more gratitude and love and snuggles for those kids, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Very special.
Question, what was I about to say? So you birthed her at 22 weeks, but if there was no reason, like there's no way for them to identify the gender, and that normally happens 17 to 18 weeks, does that mean they then confirmed baby had stopped growing at that point, and that's why?
So literally no one ever suggested to me that baby can actually have delayed growth. And now I can see so many people will be like, oh, my baby's measuring 2 weeks behind, even 2.5 weeks behind. So I actually thought I was just the biggest like fool in the world, and that my baby must have died like, you know, 1,000,000 years ago. Like, you know, I went as far as like 8 weeks ago, and I thought that my doctor's appointment was like false, and that like, I just was like really spiraling. And I do know people where it's been so long, and mine was still so long. Like if you tell people like it was probably 4 weeks, like I don't know, that's what I'm guessing. I mean that sounds so long to anyone. yeah, but there's a couple of really special things. So, the first is that she's actually born on October 15th, the International
Ah,
Pregnancy Loss
poor
Remembrance
little
Day.
honey. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's got a very special birthday, and I'm really happy with her birthday.
Yeah.
We
Wow.
can light a candle
Wow.
for everyone in the world.
Yeah. That's very powerful.
Yeah, she's named, we'll get to names later, but she is named after Saint Catherine of Siena, who's the patron saint against pregnancy loss.
Oh.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
she's like my little mission in life.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I learned later was that I'm a school counselor, one of my jobs, and I
Hmm.
became eligible for parental leave at 22 weeks.
Oh. Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next question. So was her birth, did you listen to the podcast by Bianca where they changed her
Yes,
birth
I
date and
did. Oh my
gestation?
gosh. Oh, I'm so angry for her. Oh my gosh. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I did. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so they put down Sienna's gestation as 22 weeks.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
As they should. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
So,
you got paid
so
parental leave and mat leave.
yeah. Yes.
Amazing.
I know. And I did feel guilty about it too. Not for me. I felt guilty that like, yeah, that there's this cutoff that is, quite a lot further along than what like women are expecting. So, no miscarriage like should be expected to just go back to work after 3 days or
Totally.
whatever. It's
Mm-mm.
crazy. And then, yeah, the fact that you don't get parental leave for like so much of that second trimester as well. It's like,
I think of
what the
Bianca
heck?
all the time. Like, I am so grateful for my 4 months off, and I don't know what I would have done if I had to go back to work. Like, well, I would have just had to pretend I'm okay, I guess. Like, I don't, which
Yeah.
is not healthy either. Like, but I mean, or maybe it is. Maybe I'm in an unhealthy, like, I'm
No,
seven
you're not.
months in
You're
and
doing a
I'm
great
like,
job.
fuck. I feel
No, you're
like
doing
I'm like, is this ever going to get better?
no. I felt guilty. I felt like I had to justify why I was going on leave. And I did that.
Mm,
Um, and it was so like I believe in these entitlements, but like when it came to myself, I was still being an asshole. So anyway,
mm,
I was just like, it's for the girls. Like it's in the interest of my girls. Like I'm a school counselor. Like they can't just have me rock up, next week and
absolutely.
counsel them. Like no way.
Yeah.
So the principal was amazing though. Like I'm at a Catholic girls' school, so they were just beyond beautiful. They put a little thing up
Mm,
in the chapel for me, um,
oh,
and lit candles like every day for me, and came to the funeral and yeah,
that's so sweet.
yeah,
And so you guys
uh,
had a funeral for her?
yeah. So what happened once I got home was that I had this wonderful social worker, um, and I did end up back in hospital just because like what you said, that shock trauma hit, and I thought I had an infection, but it was just the realization for my body that my baby wasn't with me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and they checked all my vitals and were like, yeah, look, this is because your baby died. We'll get the social worker to call you. And the part that was horrible was that at that point she said, I think she said it could take 4 weeks to find out the sex of my baby.
Gosh, that would have been so hard.
Yeah, and I was just, yeah, a bit beside myself and defeated. But Michael and I made the decision to announce to everyone that we'd lost our baby
Mm-hmm.
anyway. And I just had to keep reminding myself, like, put yourself in someone else's shoes. Like, they're not going to be asking you the name and sex and caring about that stuff. Like, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, Liv, like, your baby died. Like, that's so
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah.
What can I do to help you?
Yeah.
So we told everyone, and similar to you, like, just accepted all the help, like outpouring.
So
If
good.
people wanted to send flowers, at first I was like, what the fuck? Why are people sending me flowers? And then I was like, okay, people are sending me flowers. Like, these flowers are going to
Yeah.
go all around my house now.
Yeah.
Um, and we still hadn't told Francesca why. And so I was like, oh, it's because I've been sick getting all these flowers. And lots of
Uh,
food and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. I was a bit
so
delayed in telling
Francesca,
you. I just,
okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I
you
think,
were
I
sick.
wanted
Let
everything
me say
sorted,
we've I
control
feel
freak.
like we're very sick at that point. Like
Yeah.
mummy's sick is a probably very valid thing to say.
Yes, I know. I was really sick. I was some of the sickest I've ever been. So, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. But one thing that was really beautiful, it makes me think of Millie now as well, is that Joseph got sick too, and he wouldn't leave my side. He was like my little puppy dog, and he'd make me take him on all these walks. And it was springtime in Melbourne, and so everyone's roses were blooming,
I love that.
and a lot of pink ones. And I would just take little photos of all the roses and save them in my little Siena folder.
Yay! And that
Yeah.
was before you'd heard of Millie? Was this right at the beginning?
Yes, yes. Yeah, it was before I'd heard of
Wow.
Millie. Yeah.
Ugh, I love that.
Um, yeah, and then we ended up the following week getting told by the social worker again that it might be like 9 weeks until we find out the
What?
sex. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm normally a pretty easygoing person, but like this is gonna break me. Like I need to be able to process this, and I can't. So I told Michael, who's my like little my protective husband, I'm like, send them an angry email. Like, I don't care. Just go
Send them an
full
angry email.
dog.
Love that.
Like,
Yeah.
we're bereaved parents, and I need you to advocate for us.
Yeah.
Oh, so he did. And he's like, my wife's not coping. Like, she needs to know.
Oh. Oh.
And I got a call that afternoon, and they said, we know that your baby has ovaries.
What the fuck? So what took them so fucking long? Like, because in my head, I'm thinking, like, how can they not just check? Like, there's only a few things they need to check. Like, yes, if there's
I
nothing
know.
external, but like, so what the fuck took them so long? What, like, sorry, outburst.
It was the hospital bureaucracy. It was like, you know, they deal with a lot of, you know, stillbirths and things like that at that hospital. So it was kind of like, and it's not as bad as Brisbane. I've heard how terrible things are in Brisbane. But basically, it's like they send everything off, and then there's a formal process, and everyone gets given an appointment somewhere between 8 and 12 weeks
Right,
to get
okay.
everything. And so
Okay.
once we kicked up a bit of fuss, obviously, like they were able and willing to give us that information earlier.
Yeah, okay.
But again, they couldn't give us like the bloods, right? So that's why they were like, well, we've seen ovaries because we didn't
Nice.
prove anatomy.
So she had
So
little ovaries.
yeah, I know. That was like the most beautiful moment. I was like, thank you so much.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh. And I was saying I'm seeing like a red-nosed bereavement counselor said like naming Sienna was the exact same emotions as naming Francesca and Joseph. Like it's just so special.
So true.
Yeah. But yeah, so we had a little funeral. It was at our church. It was really beautiful. Um, I made this book for my kids. So it says Sienna Maria, our star sister.
Oh, wow, that's absolutely beautiful. You
And
made
so at the
that?
back that you can see the little coffin that we had. Like it was just a cute little one with a little rosebud
It's so
on the top.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that page there just shows like the little ultrasound I was talking about with the hand.
Ah,
Very cute
I
one.
love it. You made this for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. So I wanted to be able to like really tell our story and for them to have like some, you know, little resource that they could use that explained who Sienna was to us and how she's part of our family. And so, yeah, made that book. It's very cute. I won't go through all of it, but it's the classic stuff like, she's not with us anymore. She couldn't keep growing, but she's
Mm.
with us in the stars and the moon. And it's got all pictures of the kids like doing those things, like, like
Yeah, that's so
they're front
sweet.
and center. And they're actually all photos taken in during Siena's life.
Ah, so they're of you
Yeah,
guys?
yeah, yeah. So it's like on our holiday and um when Michael and I went to hospital and what the kids were doing at the grandparents' house when we were at hospital. And
Gosh, that is so precious.
yeah, yeah, it's
I
really
love that.
nice. But yeah, I was a bit of a wuss when it came to when was I going to tell Francesca and Joseph.
Yeah.
And again, classic Francesca, she made it happen. She just goes to me one day in the car, Mum, when are you going to have 3 babies? Like, when is this baby coming?
Mm-hmm.
And I just turned to Michael and I said, okay, like, this is it. Like, we're going to tell her now.
Mm.
So, yeah. So well, obviously we didn't just do it in that moment. We came home and sat down and told her.
And how
And she
did you
was
tell her?
wonderful. So I didn't have the book in hardcover yet, but I had it in like on my computer.
Mm-hmm.
So I told her through the book, and then first I told her the news, then I read her the book, and then I
Mm.
read her a couple of other stories that we'd bought, like I Have an Angel and my sister above or my sibling above.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we love
yeah.
that.
But
And
I
are they
use
the
the
books that
words "your baby
the
has
social?
died," like the
Yeah, okay.
you have to
And are
say, you
they
don't say like
the other
passed away
the
or
other
whatever.
the oh, hold on, I'll ask about that in a second. So the books, were they one of the ones, I think you said the social worker gave you some in the hospital to give the siblings?
Yeah, yeah. I found some online that I liked, and I've got some from the social worker. Yeah. So
Yeah,
we have a
that's so
little,
good.
like, yeah,
A little collection
collection.
of them. And is there, you were just saying then, so other words that are better to use, the baby has died rather than passed away? What's the difference?
Yeah, so they say because your children at that age are so literal, you need to not say that they're like, don't just say they're in heaven. Like you can tell them they're in heaven and stuff as well, but you need to actually say that the baby has died.
Okay,
Um,
just be very matter of fact.
yeah, yeah, because
Yeah,
apparently
right.
some, people get awkward about saying that stuff, and then the kids don't really.
Yeah, actually, I do know what you mean. Like, instead of fluffing about, like, you've got to be very straightforward about it. Stephanie was saying yesterday, so she has a little girl, Scarlett, and Scarlett, they were away camping, and Scarlett went, "Yes, Mum, but baby is dead." And she was like, "Oh," but Steph was like, "That is what happened. Like, baby, yes, yes, baby has died. Like, baby is dead." And she's like, "Kids just say things so."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It happens all like every day in our house. It's always like something about Sienna and how she's died, and it actually
Mm,
just helps you to just talk about it. Like, yeah, that's
yeah.
what happened.
And you said that she
Yeah,
handled it really well.
yeah, she did. So she was like really curious. Why did you choose the name Sienna? And she actually went and told her kinder class and her childcare class. I didn't prompt her. I didn't even like assist her. She just, for news sharing one day said like, oh,
Oh, bless.
I have a baby sister and she died.
Oh,
So,
goodness.
and I
But
think she said to one of them,
what confidence little kids have, like how beautiful.
yeah,
Like we get so scared to say that. Well, look, you said it at the sports game or at gymnastics, and everyone just got awkward because we feel so awkward saying it, and yet little Francesca's just like, "Oh, this happened.
yeah, I know. It's
No
wild.
fear."
Yeah, yeah. And she goes, but they're not here with us, but they're still in our hearts. Stuff like that. It's really cute.
The teacher would have just been like, "Oh, trying not to cry."
Yeah. And then over the summer, we've had friends over for her little play dates, and she'll pull out her Sienna book and say to them, we have someone who died, and then read them the book. So she's
So
educating
beautiful.
little
Yeah, that's
friends.
so beautiful. And that's what I
Yeah.
feel like all the little siblings in our community are just going to grow up to be such warriors because warriors because like
Warriors. Yeah.
we as parents are like educating them and being so confident in talking about them, and then they're going to grow up doing the same.
That's right.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. It is going to become a thing that is talked about more for sure.
I think so for sure too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then 8 weeks after, we did have our hospital appointment. And it wasn't like what I expected at all. So just given her gestation and not having grown, I was kind of leaning towards maybe a genetic condition. I didn't really know what. That was just like my mind was going towards like what would be the cause of death. Like just had no idea. And then it turned out that there's a thing, I don't know if anyone else has said it here yet, and it's called marginal cord insertion. And so what it is where instead of the umbilical cord being into the middle of the placenta, it's actually on the bottom or like the side of a placenta.
I don't think anyone's had that.
Yeah, I don't think so yet. And then on top of that, it was the hypercoiled umbilical cord, which I'm pretty sure someone else at least has had that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they think that just like those two things
I think
together.
Amy Taylor had that last week, the hypercoil.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so they think those two things together sadly just meant that there wasn't enough nutrients coming through to Siena.
And so I was going to say, did they not pick up on the cord insertion in an earlier scan? But you hadn't had scans that like were that in depth to have seen where the cord was?
No, I think that if the pregnancy progressed, they would have maybe noticed that at a later scan.
Okay.
But also like when I went and told some friends, like I had friends who had babies with the marginal cord insertion and other friends who'd had babies with the hypercoiling. And their babies are fine.
Okay.
So it wouldn't necessarily. Yeah, I actually no, that is not entirely true. One of my friends who did have the marginal cord insertion did say she was determined as high risk at some stage in her pregnancy. I think because of that. So yeah, I do think it does make you a high risk pregnancy.
Yeah. Yeah, and they would just have to keep an eye on it, I guess. And so then I guess that mixed with the hypercord umbilical.
Yeah.
Okay. Hypercoil umbilical cord?
Yeah, hypercoiling, yeah. Yeah. But obviously, like, there's just, like, nothing that can be done, So they can monitor, but it's not going to change.
And I guess that's like, I don't know if it's better or worse to hear that. There's no answer to that, is there? Like, it's like, there's nothing you could have done, there's nothing you could change, and then that's sometimes so scary because it's like, well, how do I prevent it again? And you can't. And
yeah.
And so did you do an autopsy, or you didn't need to do one?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, we did an autopsy. And yeah, there was no other issues. Yeah.
And so
and genetic testing as well. Yeah, genetic testing.
Oh, you did do? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just like, do everything, yes.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. And so what is now your risk going forward for your next pregnancy? You'll be high risk, I imagine, for the same thing to happen, or is it? Yeah, what's the risk now?
So they just automatically put you in high risk because you had stillbirth.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like real risk, there is actually no extra real risk because, as you can imagine, similar with Milli, like this next baby is going to be a completely new baby. Everything about them's going to grow, differently.
Yeah. So your next baby will have its own placenta and its own cord and its own being. Exactly. And so the risk of it happening again, is very minimal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But it is reassuring to get more scans. I was like, yes, please. Like, just see me a bit more often and like,
totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Goodness me. And so October, November, December, January, February. It's only been 4 months.
Yeah.
How are you doing day to day? Like, generally, are you? Because I feel like I'm not okay. I feel like I'm a fucking mess. I'm like, please, somebody else tell me that you're not okay as well.
Like, I understand, like, every loss is different, but I just feel like to have had your first, like, to lose your first baby is so, so, so heavy. And, you know, you don't yet have your earthside children. It's also like all those emotions are so heightened in your first pregnancy. Like, you know what I mean? Like and even just the feeling of like responsibility and the ability to blame yourself. Like, you know, if I think about how I felt, if I translate that and imagine if that had been for my first pregnancy, I just feel like I would have been worse, like so much worse.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And like there's, I understand. All loss, it was interesting because Steph was saying it yesterday. She goes, I just think what you experienced is worse than what I experienced. And she was a full-term stillbirth. And I'm like, they're all, and I think stillbirth is worse than having, you know, it's all fucked up. But I don't know whether we think that somebody else's story is worse because you just can't imagine somebody else experiencing what you've experienced. And then there's like this also, like your heart hurts for somebody else, yet we don't let it hurt as much for our own selves. Like you said before, something along the lines of, what would I think if this was my friend? And so we should really see ourselves in that same way. But I do know that a lot of the mums I talk to who have children, you know, you guys have a purpose to get up every day. And I guess I still struggle with that because it's like, without the podcast, there's not a real lot that I want to get up for each day. And I don't have children to distract me and want to get up for. It's hard.
Yeah, I feel like when I hear the stories, like I haven't heard as many stories before in my life compared to now of these neonatal losses. And the one thing that really stands out to me is the terror, like that feeling, all those fears, all that, like just that huge level of emotion, and even the pains that some of you have been through, like hearing people who didn't even get their pain meds before they had to like get episiotomies or get vacuumed out.
I know.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that stuff is so messed up. And that has a whole other trauma response like that.
That's right.
Like, yeah. But the other thing I learned quickly when I lost Siena was I was like, part of me was minimizing the start because I didn't feel like I had as much to lose in that moment. But the loss keeps growing with how old your child would be. Like my child, like Siena would have been being born now. So now I can imagine the baby girl I was meant to bring home and think of all the memories, like all the things that I'm going to miss with her that I got with the other kids.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing as well, especially when somebody does lose a child, you know, second trimester, you know, you're not giving yourself the credit of, you know, well, I didn't have a nursery set up or she wasn't quite here yet. You didn't know the gender for so long, like all those things. But like now her due date, her first birthday, all of the things. I have been chatting to Amanda Bowles, who was the one who created Bears of Hope. And her boy, Jesse, would have turned 18 last month. So she created Bears of Hope because of Jesse. And we've had, I won't share the intimate details of our conversation, but we had beautiful conversations. And to see what it's going to look like in 18 years when the rest of your family moves on, but you as the mother, the person who carried that child, doesn't. And it scares the fuck out of me, but it's also like, you know what? If no one else is going to remember my child, at least I will. you know, and so you will always, even in 18 years, still remember Siena and feel her and celebrate her and know that she was meant to be, even as this little tiny body that you grew and birthed, like
Yeah.
vaginally birthing a baby that you know you don't get to keep, I think is so powerful, like amazing.
Yeah. I think as well, as lost moms, like we are so cautious, like we don't want to make any assumptions about each other's losses and experiences and things like that. And so, I would be really cautious to say that my loss is similar to if it was one of my children, like to, one that I've been raising. But if I speak about my own children, then I'm like, well, it actually is similar because I know what grief feels like now. I know the process of grieving. And I also know the immense level of gratitude you feel for what you do have. So I
Mm.
can say, hands on heart, that if I did lose one of my other children, that I'd be grateful for all the time I've had with them.
Mm.
Like I
Mm.
can say that because I know I can feel it. Like that feeling
Mm.
of like you're like once you have a loss like this, you're just so grateful that for every day you get. Like,
Yeah. And you had,
yeah,
you had, Sienna wasn't just a stillbirth that you never had. You had her for 22 weeks and you knew about it from very early on. So, like, that's the other thing I think a lot of people don't think. And a lot of people reminded me when I lost Millie, I didn't just have her for 6 days. I had her for
yeah.
39 weeks and 6 days. Like, I had her inside of me for all that time. And I am so
Oh,
grateful for that. Like, I fucking, like, even though I was so sick, I loved being pregnant. I was so grateful. I
grateful.
would vomit and then be like, oh, I love you, child. Like,
Yeah,
gosh, how lucky I
yeah.
was to grow her all that time and just have that time with her on my own.
It's so funny with social media because one of the things I used to find so devastating when I would see someone post that their baby had died was like that 2 days before that they were so happy and excited. Like you would see that
Mm,
come down. But not only do you see it, you can go back to it. So like I've gone back
mm,
to your posts when you're pregnant and like seeing that excitement, seeing when you've gotten married and you've got Millie, and when you thought, and I hope this isn't too triggering for you, but like when you thought
yeah.
you were out of the woods and everything was going to be fine and like this was going to be your rainbow baby, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fucked up. It's like,
It is wild, hey. Like, I always
yeah,
wonder how far back people scroll because I've posted so
yeah,
much since she died, but it's like, fuck, I was in it, like I was prepared. I had everything. And you feel fucking stupid though. Like, I feel like an idiot. I'm like, why do people set up nurseries before they even bring their child home? Like, why is this a
yeah,
thing? Because it's fucking awful when they die and you don't get to bring them home. And I hate that that's my thought. But like, I look at all the shit I bought and think, what an idiot. Like, oh,
yeah.
but
I
yeah,
think
you're just
we
so
try
none
to
the
protect our
wiser.
hearts. You can't protect your heart. Like that doesn't exist. That's not a thing.
Mm, yeah,
So if you hadn't bought all those things familiar, you would just regret that you hadn't bought all those things.
so true. So true.
Yeah.
Actually, and Stephanie said that yesterday in her podcast. She said, I never bought anything for Sage. We didn't have a room set up, and maybe she died because I didn't have anything for her. And
Oh,
I showed her this whole room. I was like, girlfriend, that is not what happened.
yeah.
Like, yeah, wow, you're so right. Like, no matter which way
Yeah.
we do it, it's still going to fuck with
But
our
I
heads,
had
all right?
two little symbols, like moments that happened that I wanted to share with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so one was just before school. My Francesca's just started prep, so very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And
Cute.
just before she went back, we went down to the beach, and I was just on at the beach, like all the beautiful sparkly lights and stuff, and I just thought like, oh, but I want something like really that tells me Siena's here, like not just something that I have to
Yeah.
really think about, but that just shows me like bang. And then like right in front of me was a rose on the beach.
A rose.
A rose, a red rose on the beach. And like obviously it would have been like one of those dumb romantic, like when they give out the roses things, but like it was just
But
sitting
still,
there
like,
like
why is a whole rosebud just sitting there on the beach? I
on the
love
beach.
that.
Yeah. And then on the weekend, we were bringing home some helium balloons. My kids crashed a party at the local bowls club that they weren't invited to.
Love that.
And obviously you can't do well, you're not meant to do balloon releases and stuff. So I'm always telling the kids they always want to give Sienna a balloon. And I'm like, no, like we'll do bubbles, we'll do other
Oh,
things.
that's so cute.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe for her birthday we'll just do one. Anyway,
Yeah.
accidentally, like it was tied to the pram, but accidentally a purple balloon went up to the sky. And Francesca's decided, because pink's her favorite color, that Sienna's is purple.
Oh, stop. That's giving me
So we had like 8
goosebumps.
balloons. We had 8 balloons, and the purple one went to the sky.
Shut up.
I know, it's crazy.
Like, that's... How do people not believe in this shit? Like, that's
I know.
for sure Sienna being like, give me my damn balloon.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I know, so nice, so special. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I do love that. I mean, I think of Sienna every time I see purple now. I love that Francesca's like, no, pink is my colour. Sienna can have purple.
Yes.
Goodness me. How funny. I just looked at the time and 1 hour and 11 minutes. 111.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Amazing.
We did do it, I think, about 30 minutes beforehand, which is so cool. I'm really praying that all of our audio sounds amazing. Please, Sienna and Milli, make sure it does.
I know. We can't recreate this.
It's been so patchy, but usually it sounds patchy and then like the app fixes it in the background. So let's just pray to our angels that they fix it for us.
Yes. Milli, Sienna.
Yeah.
You're going to help your mummies out.
Yeah. Oh, well, it has been so amazing to chat to you. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on? I think I like to recap a little bit. Goodness me, where would I even? I think the advice of I'm so sorry your baby has died is like, because I know that medical professionals are listening to this and I know that people are sharing it and all the other things. And I just think you saying that hearing that was better than, there is no heartbeat. And I guess there is no heartbeat has such a stigma around it because people just don't want to hear that, but you heard it in a different way. I think not knowing the gender for so long and not being able to connect in that way was so big. Like that just adds a whole other element, and I haven't heard of that before. And I wonder if there is anyone else out there that's experienced that. I know they're going to resonate so much with your story. And I just still can't believe that Francesca was like, "Mummy, you're going to have a baby, but she might die," or what? Like that just still blows my mind. And then the purple balloon just like flying up to heaven.
So beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. My only other advice for any midwife is just like take all the photos, even if the family don't know what they want at the time, just like tell them I'm going to send this to to your Gmail or whatever email you have.
Yeah.
And you can open it when you're ready. That's like my number one advice to any health professionals that are dealing with a birth like that.
Yeah, that's so true. And because that is something that you regret is not having photos of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such good advice and so valid. And I know we were the same. I was just like, I don't know if we want that, but just, whatever, do it. And then I think they said to us at the time, like, if you don't want it, you can tell us to go away at any time, or you might not ever look at them, but at least they're there. So that is amazing advice. And also that you said that you were similar to us, that you just accepted all the help.
Yeah.
And I know that everyone is very different, but I feel like accepting the help makes others feel better, which, it is about everybody. It is about your community as well. And people do want to help. And I think also like other people are experiencing your loss as well. Like, your mum and dad experienced, that's their granddaughter that they lost. And to your cousins, it's their cousin. It's to your auntie, it's their niece. And it's to your siblings, it's their niece. I'm getting all of them. You know, my sister really struggled losing her niece. Like my daughter was her first niece, her first. We've got 9 nieces and nephews, so we have a big family. But it was the first time her sister had a baby. Like, you know, she really, really, really struggled. And so allowing people to help in that, like if I just blocked them all out and was like, I don't want a bar of it, they would have been like, it would be harder for their grief in a different way as well. So I think that's valid and fair. And I know there's a lot of people that just say like, no, I just didn't want it. And that's also fine. But I think allowing people to help is a beautiful part of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
And I think I'll add to that. I think people feel, from what I've experienced in other podcasts, like if people have said no in the beginning, like I don't want help, I don't want anyone, then people struggle to come back to you. So like people will say, 4 months later, no one was around, because generally that everyone got pushed away in the beginning. So people don't know how to come back. Whereas I feel like even 8 months on, I still have phenomenal support from a lot of people. Everyone is still reaching out. Everyone is still around. The people from the church are still reaching out to me because I let them all in from the start. And I have very quiet days. I have the doors closed, no one talks to me, or I don't answer my phone. But I still have the support there, I think, because we allowed it in. If in the beginning, in that first couple of weeks, we pushed it away, I don't think people would have tried to come back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And like that's one of the things I did around our funeral. Like it's very scary to have a funeral for your own little baby and put yourself in that situation where everyone's going to see you just distraught. But I gave my dad the job of catering. My mum got all her roses from her garden to put around the coffin.
Oh, beautiful.
And we had like 120 people there. Like I let all my colleagues and bosses and anyone who wanted to come came. It's at the same church that my kids have been baptized at, that we go to every Sunday. And then we went down to the local bowls club and had a wake there, which is what we always do after every baptism as well, that we have a party there. So I was like, this is Siena's day. Like, so I think that's so
you've
beautiful.
Got to
celebrate your babies.
Yeah, and I think having everybody there gives them that connection to the baby and to the loss and to you guys as well. I know that Ben and Lisa, who I interviewed together a couple of weeks ago, they had the baby, the gender reveal, and then found out the next day or 2 days later that she wasn't going to survive. And so I said at the time, I was like, how beautiful though, because all of your friends and family connected to this baby as a little girl to then find, and Ben was like, oh, I'd never thought of that. And so, I just think I think having that connection is really beautiful, and it allows people also to feel deeper and more connected to your child.
For sure, definitely. And that's what I love about Milli. Like you're sharing her to all of us. And so we all feel connected to her.
Thank you.
It's really special.
I love that so much. Well, I haven't said it in a while, but I do truly believe that when we make friends on earth, that our babies are dancing in heaven together. So I do believe that Siena and Milli are having a little party today going, yay, our mums are friends.
Yes, for sure. Definitely.
I love that. It has been
Milli's in her pink dress and Siena's in her purple dress.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you can see it from your side of the screen, but every time we speak, our screen is highlighted in purple. Can you see that on your side?
Yeah.
I was like, that's the purple. I keep imagining it and I can see it.
Yes, definitely. Lilac purple. Yeah.
I love that. Well, Liv, thank you so much. Your potty's going to be out next Sunday. And so if you think of anything you need, normally people message me and be like, oh my gosh, I had said this and I should have said this. Can you pop it in the show notes? If there's any way that you want people to contact you, you can put that in there. If you don't, that's also fine. But thank you again for sharing Siena with us. And it's a very, very educational podcast. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Rochelle. Thank you so much. And keep up the great work.
Thank you.
As long as you have it in you.
I know I will. I love it. Thank you so much, and I look forward to chatting to you more soon.
Okay, see you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Liv. Bye. Thank you for listening to Little Life, Big Loss. If you are here because you've experienced baby loss recently or a long time ago, I am so sorry. If you have never experienced the loss of a baby, but you are here to learn, thank you. If you are here because you have just had the news that you have to make some really tough decisions, I am so sorry. I hope these podcasts give you the help and the guidance that you need. If any of today's conversation has triggered any uneasy emotions for you, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 or lifeline.org. Another organisation working specifically with pre- and postnatal depression and anxiety is PANDA, PANDA. You can find them at panda.org.au. And remember that postnatal depression and anxiety does not discriminate. It can affect both men and women, mums and dads. Please seek help from your GP, psychologist, your local hospital, a midwife, OB, Lifeline or PANDA. I love you and I miss you, my Milli.